Hi, everybody. I am Hayley Mitchell Haugen. I am the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. Tonight, we are celebrating the fabulous West Virginia poet, Cheryl Denise, with her new book called Fences from DreamSeeker Press. And Cheryl Denise's reading will be followed by some open mic readers tonight from Sheila-Na-Gig Online Winter 2022 issue. So happy to have everybody here, and we're going to jump right in. So Cheryl Denise, as I said, is a West Virginia author. She grew up in Elmira, Ontario. She graduated from Conestoga College as an RN. And she volunteered for 3 years as a public health nurse in La Jara, Colorado. And today, she and her husband, Mike Miller, live in the intentional community of Shepherd's Field in Philippi, West Virginia, in a timber-framed house they built themselves. This is her third poetry collection that we're celebrating tonight. I Saw God Dancing from DreamSeeker's Press in 2005. And What's in the Blood from DreamSeeker in 2012 are her other collections. So welcome, Cheryl Denise. It's so exciting to have you here.
Thanks, Hayley. And Hayley, I'm just small on my screen. You can hear me and everything's good? Okay. So thanks for coming, everybody. It's a joy for me to be able to read to you tonight. And Hayley, I'm in awe of your talents. I keep your poetry book, What the Grim Girl Looks Forward to, by my bedside. It's one of my all-time favorites. And I'm honored to be here. And Fences is my third book, and that's what I'm going to be reading from tonight. So in my first book, I Saw God Dancing, I wrote a poem that said a bad thing about financial planners. And then years later, my sister goes and marries one. So this is called Fixing Things. I can't see God calling someone to be a financial planner. I said in that poem when I was young and broke. I'd like one now to plan for our upcoming vacation, which is making me nauseous. While researching on the computer yesterday, a sudden warning, flashing, freezing. Then today, the bank teller takes over an hour to send an international bank wire. She Googles the IBAN and BIC, Yahoo's the conversion rate. All 5 tellers know my 25th anniversary plans, me cheering my husband, skiing the Birkebeiner, commemorating those Vikings who in birch bark leggings cross-country skied 54 kilometers through treacherous mountains and forests, rescuing 2-year-old Hakon, heir to the Norwegian throne. 2 windows over, the frosted brunette says all she got was a weed whacker and dinner at Philippi Inn. After 3 phone calls to her supervisor, the teller says she can't guarantee the amount the bank in Norway will receive. And since it's Friday afternoon, it won't go through today. She'll be told if there's a problem, probably, but there's no way to check. She hopes she filled out the paperwork okay, tells me to cross my fingers and pray. I was gonna go to the mall tonight. Generally, I hate trying things on, but I psyched myself up to buy something that fits and is in style to make my husband happy. He is gone this weekend, unable to check me into reality. Saturday, hiking in the woods with my dog, I stopped to pray like the teller ordered. Cross-legged on the ground, I begin. But then the crying. All I can think of is how my husband will kill me after we lose thousands of dollars. I am ridiculous. He is a pacifist, would tell me to stop, but I won't. I am in detention, writing 100 times on the blackboard, Cheryl is an idiot. The rest of the world banks with ease, plans vacations without ulcers. The good doctor who died of a brain tumor said I should pray in tree stands, up in the air, above things. There are no tree stands here. Sunday, I do the laundry, bathe the dog, clean the neighbor's gutters. But Monday is Labor Day, big, expansive, and the teller keeps yakking. I can't write poetry when I can't think, and the chores are all done. So I stay in bed until 4 p.m. I am supposed to call someone I love when I am like this. I call my sister, act casual, complain about rural West Virginia, mourn the metropolis I left. Minutes after saying goodbye, her husband calls from the office, overtime prepping for a meeting. Everything is fixable, he tells me. There's a bigger bank that handles international currency. He won't hang up until I'm calm. I believe him. He fixed that small broken piece in my sister, cleans my dog's teeth when he visits, doesn't yell in a canoe, and everyone is at ease when he sits at the table. I was afraid to meet him after he started dating my sister. After I wrote that bad thing about his profession in that poem, I was pretty sure my sister would make him read. But everything is fixable. So Mike and I live on a farm that several families share, and we call the place Shepherd's Field. And our fences don't always work. Fences. In spring, I dream of woven wire gleaming with sunlight and promises kept, fresh silver pulled taut against long lines of locust posts, erect as soldiers, alert and ready. But my fence is a reunion of droopy old men, barely able to hang on to their tangle of rusty wires. This morning, 5 lambs hopped over the sagging strands, dashed up the gravel road, 7 a.m., and me dressed for the office, and the neighbor in work boots calling from his porch, "Cheryl, you need help?" I always need help. 2 farms over, Freddie's fence is worse. Cows loose every few weeks, grazing our front field. His cell phone never works, so I have to call his mom. It takes a few days before his rusty Chevy careens up the drive, Freddie's head out the window, hand on the horn, herding his thin jerseys back to their steep, grassless pasture. Sometimes, when my fence is working, I sit inside it as if part of the flock. Wool clouds drift by on pipe cleaner legs. A ewe sniffs my boots, stares into my eyes, the rectangle bars of her pupils, supposing me something exotic. As if on a dare, 2 lambs climb my coveralls, nibble the shiny buttons, then race off to play tag with the rest, sprinting from one sturdy fence line to the other. As if hearing some wild good news, silver-wooled Edna surveys the sky, leaps sideways 3 times, kicking her heels, then stops, looks left, checks right, hoping her companions didn't see. She scurries to join them, content to munch the grass of this field. Calling in sick. We get no mental health days, and since Zoloft is alive, I'm telling my boss I have a headache. I can't take another day without poetry, and I need to call my sister in Ontario, talk long, find out how she really is. I yearn to hike in the woods, listen to what the trees say, watch a family of turkeys, then describe them to my 105-year-old grandma. But first, I must retrieve my notebook and my fast pen. A poem clamors to be written. I can hear the metaphors knocking at the door. One afternoon, I was in an antique shop and I was looking at rings, and I had been looking, or I had been wanting to get a ring for myself for years, and I decided that day was going to be the day I was going to get one. Self-appraisal. When I slip it on my finger a second time, I decide I'll buy it, even though I want the more expensive opal. I choose the moment to show my husband. He says, it looks like an eyeball with a loose lower lid. And it does. He asks how much, and the lie slides out fast, easy. The turquoise stone pretty, even if fake, like those baubles in middle school the cool girls dangled from their necks on silver chains while skipping double dutch. Ladybug, ladybug, turn around. Ladybug, ladybug, touch the ground. For 2 weeks, I pack my lunch, count how much I saved by not eating at Subway. When I tell my husband it's paid for, he says I shouldn't beat myself up. But in the first years of marriage, when money was tight and pizza a luxury, we would have asked, is the ring worth 4 pizzas? In high school, I saved most of my clothing allowance, afraid of adulthood, of budgets and bills. Eventually, Mom bought me Gloria Vanderbilt jeans and a red knit dress with shoulder pads. Even in my 30s, she gave me an LL Bean coat so I wouldn't wear my barn jacket to church. I think of Grandma eating the cheapest thing on the menu while Grandpa orders steak. She never wears jewelry. I can't imagine her wanting beauty for herself. My husband replaces his cross-country skis, but I'm sure I can get another season out of mine. The following winter, he so easily glides past me through the pines. Money is the root of all evil, I say. But my sister corrects me. It's the love of money. But it's hard to have money you don't love. I slip the ring on, awkward and heavy, finger the silver feathers that cradle the stone. Not precious, not quite beautiful. Wishing I bought that opal instead, imagining it on the fingers of the now grown women from recess, strutting down Main Street, humming to themselves. I pawned that ring and I think I got $20 for it. This next poem chronicles the life of a boy from childhood to adulthood and my changing relationship with him. The boy from down the hill, age 6, races up the snowy woods, jacket unzipped, boots untied, yelling, Cheryl, Cheryl, I got you a Christmas card, waving it high as he can, after I baked his family whoopie pies for the holidays. Age 7, telling stories at the bonfire until my 90-pound mutt steals his sausage. Should I put the dog in the house, I ask? Sorry, he's a bully. No, I gave him my sandwich. I'm not hungry, he insists while petting the dog and standing as far from him as possible. I roast 2 more. He eats both while I hold the thief. Age 9, learns to smoke behind a round hay bale with his older brother before running across the field hollering, we gotta tell him. Bucket after bucket of water, we load the pickup, the burnt smell rising. Takes 3 days for that bale to smolder to nothing. Age 13, carves RS loves MC in the bark of my husband's tree stand. Age 14, grinning, wears his football uniform home from school, walks a mile from the bus stop to his shot-up trailer, bounds up the steps, knocking over the drive shaft that props up the porch roof. Age 15. Jimmy's the lock on Earl's back door, steals a TV, a jar of loose change. Earl asks him to pay it off in yard work, feeds him lunch. No police, no reports. Age 16. Roughs up an elderly man over some weed. His mom says she didn't raise him like that. 3 months in a tough love camp. Age 17, mom in jail, a hazmat team in the yard, a dismantled meth lab. Age 18, pictured on the front page of the Barber Democrat, blank stare, shaggy hair, in the regional jail for cooking meth. Age 19, hit with a crowbar by his older brother. I hear this on the scanner at the beauty shop. Age 20, shows me pictures of age 20, shows me pictures of his 2 kids on his cell phone. They live with their mothers, and he still lives with his in the trailer. No heat, no electricity, black garbage bags over the roof. Age 22, sheriff staked out by my hay barn in the early dark, then running, yelling. But 2 nights later, I hear that generator again. Age 24, I pick him up hitchhiking, ripped jeans, beer breathed, his face a plowed field, dirt and stone. But I see that 6-year-old, his full name scrawled across the manger. And for my last poem, I'll read a poem about spring here at Shepherd's Field. Waking to spring. I've been collecting words for years for this exact day. The sun spread thick over the land, thick as Dad butters his toast, as if butter is better than bread, than earth. The pond, quiet as an unopened story, since the red-haired boy shot wide to shoe 2 beavers. See the quaking maple leaves, branches bobbing, yes, 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 and the buttercups in the tall grass telling me, be beautiful. My golden retriever with gray-rimmed eyes, yesterday we sheared him with the sheep. Feel, he is softer now, younger, and I still have a little childhood inside. Red Rover, let Cheryl come over. In the field, with the fence yet unbroken, the spotted Jacob sheep walk single file on spindly stalks down to the spring-fed trough. See the newest lamb hopping straight up, left and right, as if the ground is full of coiled springs. Look, her umbilical cord still dangling. Thank you all.
Thank you, Cheryl Denise. It's so lovely to hear these poems. I did have the honor of being able to blurb the back of the book. And, one of those quotes I mentioned was, poems clamor to be written. And I don't think people who don't write poetry understand that feeling of, no, I got to get this out and it needs to be now. And yeah, just really great. It was great to hear you read this collection. And I've been familiar with some of these poems because Cheryl was, one of the first people I published on Sheila-Na-Gig Online when I started the journal. And so these poems kind of go back to that. So it was great. Thank you so much. We're going to move into our open mic reading. And I don't usually participate in the open mic, so I thought I'd share a couple of new poems, new-ish poems tonight. that are not Blue Wife poems. Some of you have been hearing me read Blue Wife poems for a couple years, and these are not Blue Wife poems. So this first one is liminal. After the separation, I reclaimed domestic real estate, patching holes where CDs once filled every wall space, delighting in newly discovered electrical outlets, emerging dusty-faced from behind the record cubes. In the bedroom, I groomed the landscape of carpet, a fresh expanse of low pile white, unearthed in a morning's worth of effort. No more Blu-rays tumbling like rockfall from every nook. No magazines stacked next to, on top of, or under anything. Wandering in, my son stops in his tracks. Whoa, Mom, he says. Wow, this is a liminal space. Look it up, he says, explaining that the bare floor, the green chair, the sliding door curtains that block passage to nowhere are like those spaces between rooms in IKEA. Oh, baby, I think, my sweet teen. Your mama knows this threshold well, this life on the boundary, the sense of being there, yet not quite there yet. A space between that, like you, so many find unnerving. But I am through with the what was, the familiar. I'm ready for next, the new beginning, even if I have to linger a while, patient in this place of waiting. And that teen is 15-year-old Peter, who's never been to an IKEA, but can make the comparison to an IKEA because, he lives online and, knows everything. So, that was kind of fun. And then a brand new poem. It's been workshopped. I haven't quite revised it yet, but I'm going to read it anyway. This is Socks. At the grocery store, the doctor's office, even at the board meeting, my feet boogie in my boots because life's too short for boring socks. I don sparkly donuts and pizza slices, pink cows and punk rock Haji pigs. Wrap me up in knee-high neon llamas any day. Silky sloth, my favorite cotton, awesome possum. Act your damn age, you might scoff. But believe me, friend, I feel it. Some days it seems my feet drift further afield, my hips pinch, unbending in their slow degeneration. I was once a girl who flew through the fluorescent air of the high school gymnasium, tucking and twisting, landing hard, my young body taking in each shock of a 4-year varsity beating. Look at me now, I think, grasping a pants leg, hoisting my foot to my knee. I struggle into a pair of tuxedo fancy penguins, feeling not unlike them, a little strange and wondrous, a flightless bird. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Michelle. I'm a poet and teacher from Central Florida. I've been teaching English and literature and creative writing at Valencia College now for 22 years. They wonderfully gave me sabbatical last fall to put together my first collection of poetry. So I've been working really hard over the last 2 years to get pieces published. And I'm happy to say that my little book, Underwater, is out there searching for a home now, and it's done. I'm back in the classroom. Very happy to be here tonight. I'm going to read 2 poems. I'll put my website in the chat by jillmichelle.com if you want to check out more of my work. The 2 poems I'm going to read tonight, one is from Sheila-Na-Gig winter edition, and it's The Golden Shovel for Ukraine. And then the other piece I'll be reading came out this week in Rise Up Review, and it's called Gun. So here we go. Golden Shovel for Ukraine, 24 February 2022. This morning, men deliver wounds and death. They will deliver death and wounds tomorrow. Gwendolyn Brooks. Weeks of Russian denial have come to this. Troops and tanks at 5 in the morning, even after all the flutterings of necktied men, barrel-chested birds perched, ready to deliver their missiles, plant their gardens of wounds where buildings once stood, rain shells and bullets over land, exchanging borders for death. 137 humans gone, and the flummoxed birds, they twitter on about possible sanctions that will freeze a few men's assets, cancel pipelines, deliver economic hits. How to calculate what one death is worth in dollars or rubles, francs or yen. And what will these seeds of financial wounds do to stem the flow of blood tomorrow? This next poem, like I said, came out in Rise Up Review. It's called Gun, and it's after Sylvia Plath's Mirror. Gun. I am harmless and a killer. Loaded like that uncle on his third martini, I spit venom whichever way my mouth is pointed, regardless of innocence. Out of my case, I open cases. Paperwork muse, author of futures, I ride, clipped to the belted hips of officers. Black L with triggered middle. Trigger pull, pulling parts apart, a part of families forever departed, my blanks you cannot fill. Now I am bass beats, background notes woven into your favorite song. You dance to me, arms raised until the bodies begin to fall. I am the last reason you'll reach for those you hold most dear, a litmus test of loving. Chameleon, I turn to fireworks outside the club, a bungled experiment in the next classroom, engine backfire by the grocery. I'll keep feeding on your innocence. You just keep ignoring me. Thank you.
I guess I'm next. Hi, I'm Joe Cottonwood, coming to you from Redwood Forest in California, where it snowed this morning, which happens about once a decade. Cheryl, I just loved your poetry. I feel like I'm living in the poems. Some poems, you know, you admire from a distance, but with yours, I feel like I'm right inside them. It's just wonderful. So let me dive into a poem that's in the most recent edition of Sheila-Na-Gig. My background is in construction. I worked 40 years in the construction trades. So that's where this is coming from. This poem is called Sika Hires Me. Sika hires me to shape up her time capsule house now that she's widowed from, she says, 67 years of functional marriage. Crusty pipes, knob and tube wires eke out driblets of water and voltage. I mustn't change the vibe, she says. The blonde wood soul of 1950s ranch house, because, Sika says, 50s was functional. Sometimes, says Sika, she and Gino would argue until they realized they weren't angry, merely hungry. So together they'd cook an omelet. Sometimes in bed, Sika would awaken because Gino was thinking. She'd say, Gino, stop thinking so I can sleep. When Gino got snappy like a lobster, they'd drive an hour to the ocean so he could wet his gills body surfing while Sika studied tide pools. And did I know barnacles have a penis 8 times their body length so they can reach their unknown neighbors? If only people, she says, maybe sex wouldn't be so damn awkward. Sika's like a playful, long-haired cat, unashamed to pause for licking private body parts. I tell Sika I need to open up walls, Breaking eggs will be messy, but when I'm done, the omelet will taste as great as you remember, function in ways you will not see. Sika says, precisely. And I'm gonna stay on the construction theme. Here's another one that was in a previous Sheila-Na-Gig. It's called Ode to Replacing a 50-Gallon Water Heater. Wrestling the mass of a gorilla, but less furry, less flexible, removing crusty pipe amid fragrance of rat droppings. And it is wet, puddles and streams of wet, because that is why you called me. So I bring the tools, the knowledge I carry, the pride. There is delicacy in plumbing, an art that rises beyond the skill to turn tight, but not too, to thread tiny fittings, feathery fingertip to vice-like hand strength, to lift large with visible results, a gleaming new tank. I bring warmth to your morning face, your dirty dishes, your strawberry shampoo hair. Think of me. That's it.
Righty. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Prather. My first collection is We Were Birds, published in 2019 by Main Street Rag Publishing. My second collection will be published by Fernwood Press this year. It will be called Bending Light with Bare Hands. Now, the two poems I'm going to read are in this current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, and I'm going to start with Junebug. Junebug. It is summer, and I am home late. My love asleep on the couch with the television mumbling and flickering, porch light on as I make my way to the door. Tawny brown June bugs kick at the air, having landed on their backs after flying too close. I don't know what it means when bugs throw themselves at light. Are they perhaps thrown off course, distracted from the moon? Are they misguided by the nearness of streetlights and floodlights and incandescence escaping windows to lure the curious away from their purpose? I want to mention Icarus here. I want to tell you my father gave me waxen wings and warned me of the dangers of the sun. I want to tell you that sometimes I cannot resist a brightness so intense it beckons to be touched. Tonight, I take the time to set these beetles right so they can crawl to higher ground where they can open themselves to rising heat. I don't know what it means to be tempted by the luminous as a body approaches the inevitable. Even my love has no answer. Returned from that numinous glow, I am still fallen. Or is it more honest to say I am fallen? All right. And the second one is Rebirth Day. A tickle on my ankle could be a bug, possibly a carpenter ant carving out the pulp of my body, a termite, or larva of spotted lanternfly. An itch along the underside of my arm could be a paper wasp scraping cells to build a nest made mostly of me. Or it could be a bark beetle drilling for bone. My friend sends me a picture she found of a jumping spider carrying a bead of water upon its back. The flower beyond revealed perfectly in refraction. She wishes me well when she knows I am not. She sends me watercolor birds in their poses of perpetual song. I want them to nest in my hair, roost on my fingers, make me feel young again. When I am reborn, I will propagate more branches than sensible. a home to colonies of creatures that crawl and cry and call in the dark, with someone like my friend out there listening. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Laura Ann Reed, and I'm joining you from Western Washington, about 25 miles north of Seattle. I have a chapbook that's recently out called Shadows Thrown, and I read the two poems that were in the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig. I read them last time, a previous event. So I'm going to be reading you a couple of brand new pieces that are not published yet. And the first one is called In the Darkened Pane, In the Darkened Pane. From my house, I watch evening sift down through the blackberry winter bare. My father isn't anywhere I can touch or brush dust and leaves from the letters of a name I once wanted to lose, wanting to lose my history. I tried to step away from the long disgrace, ghosts and shadows handed down. I was the only one of 7 pushed into the light who refused to die. Night is now claiming the juniper's blue-green needles. A woman's face is unreadable in the darkened pane, harp strings plucked by the wind's fingers. Thank you. And the second poem I'm going to read you is something else entirely. It comes from conversations I had with a couple of other poets about the strategies they use to try and write into the unknown. Writing in order to find something that you didn't know you knew, rather than writing the same old story one tells oneself about the world, about oneself. So it's called Trying to Find Something. One friend writes with a bright crayon held in her non-dominant hand. Another goes to Rome to translate Lorca, knowing neither Spanish nor Italian. Not trusting these handicaps, he gets drunk, gets stoned, goes without sleep, goes to a public square at midnight, sits at the edge of a fountain with notebook and pen, his feet submerged in water, whitened by the moon, by ice, and only then dares to write, willing wilderness to find him lost within it. Oh, Amir, I can't do these things. I've grown old since that day we embraced under a Mediterranean sun, my parents waiting in their rented Peugeot to take me back to the States. And anyway, what does my left hand know about that blue vein below your eye, the one that quivered before you kissed me outside the cafe on the Cour Mirabeau? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Sable, and I'm coming to you from Akron, Ohio, where it's 70 degrees today. It's quite beautiful. So I'm going to read 2 poems that will be in my forthcoming book called Watermark, and it's a book themed on the Johnstown flood of 1889, called The Great Flood. And both of those poems happen to be in Sheila anthologies. Women Speak, and I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, both edited by Carrie Gundry Seymour and put out by Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. The first poem is called Water Wheel, and the date is Johnstown, of the epigraph is Johnstown, PA, July 19th, 1977. I heard my father's story a full 2 days later, after frantic calls home, all wires down, Red Cross lines besieged, try again later, later. On his way to work at the mill that morning, my father's car headed down into the city as the flood rose to meet him, rising fast up the steep road so that he threw the car into reverse and sped some 1,000 feet back up that incline, shimmying curb to curb all the way to the house on Bluff Street, where he woke my mother, and together they ran to the corner, Mom still in her bathrobe, to witness the neighborhood below become a fast-running creek. From a collision of thunder up near Erie, a series of storms had followed one another like train cars on a track, moving down to the Conemaugh Valley, opening their colossal cargo of rain over the town, bursting dams that checked the river, washing away houses, lives, 78 souls. Through the years, he'd tell it exactly the same way, like a passage he'd memorized for school, with the same wide-eyed astonishment, as if he were once again watching that torrent rush toward him, trapped behind the wheel, with no option but to hightail it backward to higher ground. I would often ask, "Tell me again, Dad, how you escaped the flood that day," and silently recite the story along with him, like a prayer, and together would see the sky as a sheet of molten steel and the marvel of that surging tide. Thanks. So if any of you are not familiar with the landscape of Western Pennsylvania, it's the Allegheny Mountains, and it's very mountainous. Everything is very steep, and it's very, very flood prone. And the second poem is Along the Stony Creek, which is a creek that feeds into the main river that became, that overflowed its banks for every flood, especially the one in 1889. Summer along the Stony Creek. From a needle eye in the Alleghenies, this sheet of liquid shimmer unseams the earth. Steel rail and forest trail run alongside north and west to the highlands. At this bend, the current circles, chisels, deepens for the child's cannonball, the raccoon's cupped hands, ribbon snake's undulations, a polished assembly of stars. See how the water gathers oak's shadow, hemlock's needled rush in its wending, how the shifting clouds and lift of broad-winged hawk echo on its surface. One with sky, river meets itself as deluge, thin rain as mist. A body could float through time on its muscled back. Our stories are ferried in its depths, caravan of arrowhead, latchkey, crockery, bone. Listen now to the river's patter, reminding us not everything is broken. Thanks very much.
Okay, I think I'm next. This is a copy of the new book that just came out today. So, take a look on the Sheila-Na-Gig website. It's orderable. But the poem I was going to read it's a new one, and it will be in the Sheila-Na-Gig next issue. It's called Picking Favorites. We're not supposed to pick favorites, whether it's a favorite child, favorite pet, now deceased, or favorite time when you went to bed early and the radio played all the right music. You're not supposed to think this way. How will all the other nights seem if you do? They won't have disappeared. You'll still remember them, the holding, touching, her lips, yours. You're supposed to say that all those nights are equally great, that each child is special, that your dog, the vet sedated with the first shot, then killed with the other, was loved no more or less than the dog after or before, that each house or apartment where you've lived has been the dream home you always wanted. Get it straight. You're supposed to lie. To everyone else, to yourself too. Even if you say you treat each child the same, there are moments you're closer to one or the other. Sometimes, of course, you wonder if you haven't failed them all in different ways. Times you shouldn't have gotten angry so easily. How you should have said, great, with conviction, when one chose a class in Iranian film over Shakespeare, or another gave up his scholarship. In Chronicles, David gets into trouble for counting the people. It makes sense. There are things you really don't want to know, like how many days you've been alive, or how many you've got left. Picking favorites is probably like that too, unlucky. There was the morning in April when you first walked around Venice by yourself, or the night you and Jimena sat by Biscayne Bay, looking at the lights from the causeway, the occasional boat passing on the water. Don't start counting times like that. Don't try to remember them either. That way they'll stay somewhere inside you, unchanged. You can't help it though. You remember how the sidewalks dipped in Roma Norte, where driveways met the street, how you had coffee and talked about Lorca. Don't think like that. In a little over a month, you'll go back to Mexico, order tacos again at El Califa, and Jimena will make fun of your dreadful Spanish, and you'll laugh too. That night will be perfect, just like all the others. Thank you.
Thanks so much, George. George shares poems with me on Messenger quite often, and I quite often steal him for the next Sheila-Na-Gig issue. Like this one was pretty fresh off the press. I said, okay, it's going in the spring issue. So great to hear it. It works just as well.
Thank you, Hayley. Thank you.
It's really great. Thank you to all our open mic readers tonight, and thank you, Cheryl Denise, for letting us hear you read from Fences. So good luck with that collection. Really great to hear you all. And thank you for all our audience who came out to support our amazing poets. We appreciate you. You can check us out at Sheila-Na-Gig online. It's Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com, and I will put that at the end of our program. Thanks so much.